This is Robert at Merritt Web, and this is the third installment for QuikTest Education. There'll be 10 of these all together when we're done, between 8 and 15 minutes apiece. This current one is going to be about graphics. There used to be one graph for QuikTest, and that was it. But I have included a number of others. I think there's 10 more. And we'll look at those here after we get done looking at the default graph that appears on the screen. So you might want to, after we're done or while we're doing this or whatever, you might want to pull up a number of different QuikTest results that you have so that you see the difference here. Let's start off by looking at this. Number one, we're going to look at the yellow. This yellowish kind of mustard color. This is the QuikTest set of results that you have selected. Now, this particular client has 130 sets of results. So the one that you're looking at here out of the 130 is the one that was administered on 1/4/2017. That's today. If you selected one from 2012, that date would appear up here. Okay, like the other day we looked at 5/23/2012, and the yellow graph then would be for May 23rd, 2012, because that's the one that you selected. Please understand that the yellow bar is not always the most recent. The yellow bar is the one that you selected because that's the one you want to examine. So it's the one we're going to show you compared to the red and the blue. Now let's look at, since we're going right to left here, let's look at red. Red is the average from all the administrations of this person's QuikTest. So this is the average for all 130 results that are in the system for this particular person. As you can see then, comparing the item selected, which is the item from today's administration of this test, comparing that with the average, we're looking at, in every case here, a score today that is well below average. Now, let's go to the blue. Blue is the first. This is your benchmark. This is what they started at. Now, this particular person was not in crisis. As you can see, a 98, a 97, 100 for their entry scores. So this person was not in crisis. A lot of what you're going to see, though, people will be in crisis when they come in. So you're going to see scores up in 120, 125, 130 range as the first score, and then as you administer it many times over the course of counseling this person, you will see that the average will be lower than their entry-level scores, and hopefully the most recent, if that is the one in fact that you select, will be even lower than the average, like it is in this case. That's an indication that you're moving in the right direction. This is really easy to see. You look at the yellow. The yellow, in good cases, is lower than the red. And in cases where a client comes in crisis, the blue will probably be the highest. So if you get this stair step down from the left to the right, you're looking good. The goal, of course, is to get all of the current scores below 115, preferably below 110. Because that gets them into that 68% range. We'll deal with that issue in the next video. So that's the initial graph. Let's look at dropping this box down here. You drop this box down, and you're going to see three. Well, the first thing you're going to see is this multi-line, multi-date client results. We're going to look at that last. That's really powerful. You're going to want to use this every time you administer a QuikTest more than one time. Let's drop this down, though. And we're going to see all merit, your sites, and selected client. Okay? Let's look at these. There's three for each. Anxiety, depression, scatter graph. Anxiety, safety, scatter graph. Depression, safety, scatter graph. Obviously, there's three scores here. These are the three potential combinations between those three items. We repeat the same thing for your site and for selected client. What does this show us? A scatter graph. Let's go to this one first. This is a scatter graph, and this particular scatter graph is for anxiety compared with depression, and it is all results in the merit system. Not really, it's the last 400. This particular programming method of doing graphs doesn't like to go over 400 much, and there's really no need to, because the other scores would just be embedded in here in the middle anyway. 400 gives us a real clue of what's going on. So we see depression. Depression scores go from the bottom up to the top. Anxiety scores go from the left to the right, starting at 0, and here depression goes from 50 to 100. Anxiety goes from 0 to 160. These are arbitrary numbers set up by the Google programming method that I'm using to create these graphs. So I don't have any control over these numbers. What does this show us? It shows us, because we have this line going up here, this arbitrary line going from nearly a 45-degree angle, that shows us that there is a very strong relationship between depression and anxiety. You'll see it's almost a 45-degree angle. Now, you can see also as we roll over this, you can see individual scores in there. Of course, no names are revealed. But you see other things, like these in the bottom here. This is abnormal. This is an anxiety score of 120 and a depression score of 98. Usually, as we can see, they follow up this line. These anxiety scores here did not, which is kind of interesting. This one out here, this is way out. That score is way out. If you get a client who scores out in that range, you're going to want to ask yourself, should I be dealing with this? Because this is really out. Again, this particular scatter graph gives us the whole merit system and what everybody has done. We're going to go down and look at and anxiety, safety, depression, safety do the same thing. Okay, this is anxiety and safety. Now, we just had, we still got it up, look at the 45-degree angle, and then we go up here and we look at this. It's not 45 degrees anymore. It's laying down a lot more. And this upper range here is a lot more scattered stuff. Anxiety is the up and down, as we can see, 0 to 160. Safety is from 50 to 150 here. So what's really going on with this? It's very, very interesting to see that this one lays down so much more. It's almost linear. Again, we can do the same thing. We're just going to do this for the all merit stuff. I won't show you the rest, but because it's kind of redundant. Again, there's almost a 45-degree angle. So there's something different about anxiety and the safety score. Much more of a relationship here between these two. very strong relationship actually between depression and safety. So anyway, you can roll these over and find relatively where your client is if you wish. I'm going to close all these down. We're going to look at the first one here for your site. This is the top 400 quick test results for anxiety and depression from your site alone, not from all of Merit, but from your particular site. And as you'll see, there's a whole lot less data here than there was. But for depression and anxiety, it's still going up at almost a 45-degree angle, but there's some weird stuff here. There's a high there. There's 130 and 12 there. And that one's okay. But it's these highs down here that just are kind of curious. But you can see what your anxiety depression looks like for your site. Let's keep him open. And you've got the same thing, anxiety safety, depression safety for your site without regard for client. Now this one, the client that is selected, the single client that you selected, if there's only 5 results, you're only going to see 5 dots. But you will see the relationship between those 5 dots. Again, relatively 45-degree angle for anxiety and depression. That shows that it's normal. And let's go back over here again. Let's open this one back up. Now we can compare this to this, and we can see it's relatively a 45-degree angle. You got to watch your numbers here because they might be different. So you can see where the client is. If you only got 5 results, you only have 5 dots. You can visually see the scatter of a person's score. Now we're running out of time here, so I'm going to get to this: the multi-line, multi-date client results. This is powerful. If you have more than one set of results, and the more results you have, the more powerful this gets. It shows you up to the last 10, okay? And I chose to number these rather than date them because it would just get too confusing with dates here. So the dates are down here. You can see date number 1 is going to be 12/4. And let me see. Okay, he's over here. Now, what you see here is blue is anxiety, red is depression, yellow is safety, and the green line is for where we have a technical elevation of 115. That's where we start to say something is really amiss. And in this particular set of results, you see that safety relatively follows depression. Now, this is not always going to be the case. Anxiety is remaining much higher on the whole than either safety or depression. Now, if you hover over the number or the middle number, if you see even numbers only, it shows you the score. What's interesting is what happened here. These are all scores below the green line, so there's no crisis here. But what happened here that drove this up 97, 108, 11 points. 11 points. What drove it up 11 points? What drove this up? What drove depression over the anxiety line? Because there's never a problem with anxiety or with depression going over, except in a few cases here. So that's all for this, and we'll be back with more later.